Hi, everybody. Good morning. Welcome. As you can see on the screen, I have the handy dandy QR code. If you want to point your camera to that, you can sign in. I'm also going to post a direct link in the chat. Okay, we're going to get started. So I have you all on mute for now because we're a large group. If you have any questions, just drop them into the chat. It's only me this morning, so just be patient, and what I'll do is I'll stop every few slides and catch up with questions on the chat. So welcome. I have a couple updates. This news or this information came out after the briefing was released. I had two weekly briefings released, one in November talking specifically about the March 2nd SAT College Reportable Administration, and then another one in December right before the break talking about all the various opportunities in spring for ACT and SAT. But once we came back, we received new information that the district is going to fund the March 8th ACT Non-College Reportable for seniors who need concordance scores, and these would be for students enrolled at a traditional non-charter school. So for those of you that are from traditional non-charter schools and you've already reached out to Jessica Dusler for a contract, don't worry about it. I've already spoken to her. Dade will now contract with ACT, very similar, or actually exactly similar to the administration that we had in October, the fall administration, where the district funded seniors who still needed concordance scores. So if you had contacted Jessica, don't worry about it. Charter schools, you can still contract with ACT for either the non-college reportable or the college reportable that are still in the spring. Just make sure if you're wanting to contract with the ACT non-college reportable, you do so by January 19th. And also, I was contacted yesterday by the Department of Advanced Academics. They have an exciting opportunity. It's still in the works, but they are currently looking for high-performing seniors. They were able to allocate some funds for an SAT boot camp and to fund the opportunity for the March 2nd College Reportable Administration for a small group of high-performing seniors. They're still working on the criteria and the report, but they wanted me to advise you to please be on the lookout for communication from them in a weekly briefing. It's a small number of students. I think it's 1,000 throughout the district. So if students that meet that criteria are from your school, you'll be contacted, and also please look out for a weekly briefing. So that's an incredible opportunity. Okay, so let's talk about the differences between the college reportable and the non-college reportable administration. If you're new to the testing world, SAT and ACT school days have become more popular and quite honestly more necessary in the past 3-4 years. First of all, it's become popular because it's convenient for the student to just test at their own school. They don't have to come on a Saturday. And then with the Concordance scores, it's become a necessity, especially with the offering of non-college reportable administrations for students to take advantage of this opportunity for another exposure to get a concordance score. So basically the differences are college reportable are reported out. They're reported to colleges for use for scholarship purposes. They are standard time, except for students with allowable accommodations, and to get those accommodations you need to request them. The school needs to request them. Non-college reportable obviously are not used for reporting out. They're not used for scholarships or colleges. They're solely used for concordance scores. Students are allowed extended time, and the school does not need to apply for those extra supports like ELL supports or extended time. It is automatic. And this is a table of the concordance scores that from the Department of Education. I do wanted to highlight the changes for the 18-19 cohort. Those would be your current seniors. Remember that the ELA concordance for SAT went from 430 to 480. So now they need to get a 480 on the reading portion of the SAT. And then for the ACT, they need to now take English and reading subtests. And those scores are averaged, and the student must get at least an 18. Now remember, scores are rounded up, so the student gets a 17.5. That meets the requirement because it's rounded up to an 18. And scores can be super scored. So you can take the highest score from any ACT administration, non-college reportable or college reportable, and they can be mixed and matched. For example, if a student has a highest English score on an ACT college reportable that they took on a Saturday, and then they took an ACT non-college reportable on a school day, and they have their highest reading score there, you can use those two scores to super score. ITS does this automatically, so you'd have to make sure both scores are in SPY. And I'm going to talk about those of you who are not or who don't know how to make sure students or how to get scores input into SPY or request input into SPY. Just make sure that the scores are in SPY, and then the flag is generated automatically. And you can see the flag in the graduation flag screen in SPY, File Download Manager, and some counselors use Aspen, so it would be reported there. Okay, let's talk about ACT opportunities for the spring. First of all, when they say spring semester, they mean the entire spring semester. So all of these 4 administrations are within the spring semester. ACT only allows 1 administration per the entire spring semester per school. So you would only be able to participate in 1 of these administrations. Now, for those of you that are traditional non-charter schools, the decision's been kind of made for you. We will be administering the non-college reportable during the March 8th to 18th window. Charter schools, you still can pick any one of these dates to administer an ACT. And by the way, if you are in a traditional school and you don't have seniors that need concordance scores, just reach out to me, and you would prefer to test on one of the college reportable days, just reach out to me. Charter schools, you can make your own decision. Just make sure that you contact ACT by the contract date. And then for those of you that aren't used to non-college reportable ACT, as you can see, those are windows. So the date of administration is just not 1 day, and I'll talk about this later, but you can see these are rather large windows. In the fall, we only had a 3-day window. We have a 9-day window for the March 8th administration. So I'll talk about that, how you can sort of test students over multiple days. Okay, let's talk about the important dates for ACT for this spring. First, let's talk about this March 8th through 18th non-college reportable administration. Again, if you're at a traditional Mdcps school, I've already executed the contract, so you don't need to worry about that. Charter schools, if you choose this window or the March 29th window, you want to make sure that you contact Jessica Dusler. Requesting the contract is very easy. Really, all she does is you just email her, she sends you back a link, and it's basically a form you fill out online stating that you want to participate, and that's the extent of it. It takes 5 minutes to fill out. For accommodation requests for non-college reportable, you really don't need to, since the extended time is automatic. For ELL, you don't need to submit accommodations because ELL automatically are allowed to use the word-to-word dictionary and translated test directions unless a student needed an alternate testing format. They needed large print or Braille or something like that. That's the only time you would submit for accommodations for a non-college reportable. The upload for the March 8th window will be January 28th. I will do that for the traditional non-charter schools. Similar to the October administration, I will upload a pre-ID file of seniors still needing concordance scores, and then you guys will go into Pearson and check that with your own lists. And then, of course, for charter schools, it's $35. For the district, traditional non-charter schools, it's funded by the district. Anyone who doesn't need non-college reportable can still, anyone who doesn't need non-college reportable can still offer college reportable either April 5th or the 19th. And then for college reportable, you'd really need to make sure that if you had students who needed accommodations or ELL students testing, you'd want to make sure that those requests were submitted by February 18th. And again, these would be on your own, so you'd have to execute a contract by February 16th, and then the fee would be $35 per exam. Okay, let's talk about SAT school day opportunities for the spring. The first up is the March 2nd administration, and that is mandatory for all students in 11th grade. Similar to the PSAT that we do in the fall, where all 10th graders are tested, in the spring now all 11th graders are going to be administered the SAT. It's funded by the DOE. However, seniors may test at $55 an exam, $8 if they're on free and reduced lunch. Then there are two optional SAT school days. The first is April 13th. That's a college reportable day. And again, you can test juniors and seniors that day. Same rule applies, $55 per exam for any junior or senior, and then $8 for any junior and senior on free and reduced lunch. And then the non-college reportable administration on April 26th. Non-college reportable administrations are for seniors only. Juniors are not allowed to test per College Board policy on a non-college reportable administration. And obviously that's for any student that needs a concordance score. They would get automatic time and a half. Students, ELL students would get automatically ELL supports. Okay, let's talk about deadlines for the SAT. So for the March 2nd administration, now this involves anyone who has 11th grade students enrolled at their school. You want to make sure by January 11th that you have requested accommodations for your SPED students and your ELL students. The weekly briefing 31830 was sent out in November with these deadlines, so I just want to make sure it's coming up. It's Tuesday is the deadline, so make sure that you get those requests in. For ELL students, you have until January 28th, again, to enter or request supports for them. For any SAT exam, the school orders the test material, so you would need to go into the College Board test ordering site by January 28th to order your materials. Since this will be a district-wide administration, labels will be shipped to school, so I'm going to give the College Board a pre-ID file, and then similar to what happened with the PSAT, you will get labels by February 15th. The funding source is from the DOE, and again, it's for all schools, charter, charter and non-charter are funded by the DOE. If they're in 11th grade, they can test. And for this administration only, there's no unused test fee. And by the way, for the March 2nd administration only, if the student is absent that day, you are allowed to go in to the College Board test ordering site and order makeup materials. This is similar to last year. Remember the Florida CARES administration that we had last year in March? You can also order, you were able to order makeup materials last year. This year, the makeup will be April 13th. So if a student misses or is in quarantine, God forbid, you have a window, it's March 2nd through the 4th, where you can go into the test ordering site and then order makeup materials, and then the student would test on April 13th, and that would go for your seniors as well if they missed it. But if you're offering the April 13th at your school, sorry, the April 13th test administration at your school, these are the dates to request accommodations. You need to order materials by March 11th. I mean, remember, this would be for the students that aren't making up that you're having a new administration for April 13th. And again, the funding source needs to come from the school, so it's $55 per exam, $8 for students on free and reduced lunch. Remember, juniors and seniors can test. And there will be an unused test fee so far. That's what we're hearing so far. There will be an unused test fee. So any test fees unused over the 20% threshold will be charged $27.50. And then lastly, the non-college reportable administration. Remember, this would only be for seniors. there's really no reason, quite honestly, to submit requests for accommodation because accommodations are automatic. If you needed an alternate testing format for the SAT, you wouldn't be able to get it for a non-college reportable administration. If the student needs Braille or large print or some sort of alternate test book form, they would need to test on a college reportable day. So that's a little different from ACT. You would need to order materials by February 25th, and then wait, I think I have the wrong date there. That doesn't sound right. Let me go double check that date. Sorry about that, guys. That doesn't sound right. And then the school would need to pay $55 per exam and then $8 for students on free and reduced lunch. And again, there will be an unused test fee. Yeah, here's the correct date. So let me go back. This should say March 25th and not February 25th. I'll correct that. Sorry about that, guys. This was attached to the weekly briefing that I sent out, but if you open the PowerPoint that I linked in the chat, I also have a link to this PDF. And I love a one-sheeter. I love everything at a glance. So this kind of tells you the date of the administration, whether it's ACT or SAT, whether it's college reportable or non-college reportable, the grade level, whether it's a district-wide administration or not, and then you know, the important deadlines, when the requests for accommodations are, and then the deadline for either ordering or uploading the student. For ACT, you don't order materials, you upload that student roster. And then again, the funding source. And then I wanted to do a quick side-by-side comparison of the two, because these are the two district-wide administrations, and these are the ones where most people are going to be participating. Everyone who has 11th graders will be participating in the March 2nd administration, and then traditional schools and any charter schools who sign up for it will be administering in this ACT non-college reportable administration. So I just wanted to do a side-by-side comparison. First, let's talk about the March 2nd administration. It's funded by the DOE for all schools. All students enrolled in 11th grade will be taking this test. And again, seniors can test, but the student would be responsible for those fees. It's a college reportable standard time administration, so standard time for everyone except for students with allowable or approved accommodations. And again, the school must request those accommodations. They're not automatic. Schools need to go into the College Board test ordering site by January 28th and submit their order. Your juniors will be pre-identified and labels will be shipped to you by February 15th. Students who miss, now this is the only school day that has a makeup administration. So students who miss the March 2nd SAT school day will be able to make it up on April 13th, but schools would need to go in between March 2nd and March 4th in the test ordering site and order those makeup materials. And for this administration, there is no unused test fee. Okay, so now let's look at the ACT non-college reportable. That window is March 8th through the 18th. It's funded by the district for seniors of traditional schools. Charter schools may contract with the with ACT on their own. The only accommodations that should be requested are for test book format. You don't need to request accommodations for ELLs or for any extended time. It's automatic. Schools will use, so schools who participated in the October administration will use their same credentials to get into Pearson. It's not set up yet. They're still processing our contract. So as soon as it's processed, I'll let you guys know, and then you would just sign in, but you would change the administration date at the top, and I'll show you that. But you'll be able to go in and look and see which students I uploaded, and then remember, you can enroll and unenroll as needed, and I'll be happy to help you with that. Schools can increase their test order for this administration between February 7th to February 25th. With ACT, you don't need to decrease your book order. You can increase your book order. The only thing you need to worry about with ACT is that at the end of the administration, you need to unenroll the students from Pearson so that you don't get charged for those tests. And then for this administration, there is no makeup. All right, let me go to the chat and let me see if we have any questions. I know I'm going over a lot of information. By the way, if you had any problems signing in, please just email me your name and your work location, and that'll be fine. Okay. Yes, the training's being recorded, and as soon as I'm done with the makeup for anyone who missed this training, I will post it on our website and I'll send you guys a blast. Does that mean that if we select another ACT date, March 31st, seniors would have to pay for this administration? Just the March 8th administration is paid for by the district. That is correct. And let me tell you, the reason why we didn't choose the latter administration is because the window is so large. There are two NCR administrations, one that begins on March 8th and one that begins on March 29th. The March 29th was right after spring break. It's a rather large window. It doesn't end until April 8th. And the concern was getting the scores back in time to clear seniors. So we chose the March 8th window for that reason. Will the March 29th be funded by the district as well? No, just the March 8th administration. Does a 19 in ACT reading count if the average between the English and reading is less than 18? No. So remember, the 19 on ACT reading is for cohorts prior to 18-19. The rules changed this year for the 18-19 cohort. Now students must take both sections and must get an average of 18. So you just add the scores, divide by 2, and that's the average. So they can no longer just get a 19 on the reading. SPY does not show ACT scores. Yes, it does. It shows reportable and non-college reportable. If somebody wants to send me through direct chat a student ID, I can show you. But SPY scores are in ACT, SPY scores are in File Download Manager, and also the graduation flags, which is an incredible screen in SPY, is there to help you, and it'll tell you yes whether a student has met the graduation test requirement or not. Okay, question about will we get these slides? Yes, let me put another link to the PowerPoint right here. So that's a link to the PowerPoint for anyone who didn't get it. Okay, sorry, I lost my place. And do me a favor, guys, don't direct message me because it's just me and I can't keep up with it. Sorry, guys, I lost my place. Can juniors test March 8th? That's a good question. I'm still trying to find that out. The problem is the invoice is going to get complicated. Right now, the invoice is just for seniors. So I'm still getting that information. Sorry, folks. I'm still getting that information. I will get back to you. But for right now, no, only seniors can test on March 8th. Can juniors and seniors take the ACT non-college reportable needing concordance scores or just seniors? I'll get back to you on that, folks. So what is the fee, if any, of the April 26th NCR for seniors only? So there is a fee that's not covered by the district. It's $55 per test, or $8 if the student is on free and reduced lunch. Specifically for March 8th ACT, can juniors take the, I'll get back to you guys on that. Are there fees for unused exams for March 2nd ACT? No. And remember, that's only for the March 2nd administration. That's the only administration where there are no unused test fees. Do we order the materials directly? So for SAT, yes, you must order materials. You're going to go on the test ordering site and order materials. And that's the same for PSAT, advanced placement, SAT. The district is not able to order materials for you. For ACT, it depends on whether it is handled by the district or by the school, whether it's a district contract or a school contract. If it's a district contract, we will do the upload for you. If it's a school contract, the school will do the upload. And by upload, I mean you don't go to a site and order a number of exams. You upload a roster of students, and based on the number of students you uploaded, that will be your initial test book order. That will also be your initial label order. You do have a window of opportunity to increase test books for ACT if needed, but you don't need to decrease your test books. So ELLs will be able to get accommodations for college reportable administration, absolutely. And I'll talk about that in more detail, but yes. You're allowed to request accommodations for ESE students. Maybe they need extended time, maybe they need small group testing, and then for ELL students, and I'm talking about the college reportable administration where you would need to, because they're allowed extended time. ELL students are also allowed to use their word-to-word dictionary. Basically the same accommodations they would get for state testing, they're allowed for ACT and SAT. So seniors who need a concordance score should take the April 26th with extended time instead of March 2nd. If those seniors are standard curriculum, yes, you can have them test on April 26th because that's when they would get the standard time, extended time. They wouldn't get they wouldn't get the extended time during the March 2nd unless they're ELL or SPED. But honestly, if they're free and reduced and it's only $8, I'd have them test both times. So, but that's up to you guys. I know with the new, the score change for SAT, it's gone from 430 to 480. I know it's been really difficult for students to get that score. So a lot of schools are turning to ACT now. So we'll see. Is it mandatory to order the makeup SAT from March 2nd? Is this a choice? It's a school site decision. If for whatever reason you're not able to make up, it's up to you. But I'm just saying the option is there for you to go in and make up the student. If we test on March 2nd, can we test on April 26th as well as, or we can only test once per spring for SAT. For SAT, you're allowed to administer as many tests as you want. It's only ACT that has that policy. That's a great question. Thank you for bringing that up. I didn't think about it. But yes, you can have students test on March 2nd, April 13th, and April 26th. Just remember the April 13th and the April 26th, you guys would have to fund it. Either the student would need to pay or the school would need to pay. Do schools need to order ACT materials? So for the district-wide administration, schools, I will submit and upload a student data upload, which will act as the initial test order. That's for traditional schools. If you're a charter school and you contract, you would do the same thing, and that's how you submit the order. So if it's a district-wide contract and you're under the district, I will do the upload for you. That will count as the test order. If you're individually contracted with ACT, maybe you're a charter school, then you would have to upload the roster that would serve as the order. Is the district paying for the SAT NCR for seniors on April 26th? No. The district will be paying for the ACT NCR, but not the SAT NCR. The ACT NCR for March 8th may start on any day within the window, correct? That is correct. So from March 8th to March 18th, you've got that window. You can test on any of those days. It doesn't have to be sequential. The days don't have to be sequential. You can pick a couple days during the 2 weeks to test, or divide your guys into smaller groups and just cycle them through, however you want to do it, but anytime during that window you can test. And I will go over the sequence of administration in the upcoming slides. Please don't forget to go over how to have students concordance scores from different administrations added to SPI? Yes, I will. I will, and remind me if I don't. I should be able to remember, but yes, what you would do is just email the concordance scores at dateschools.net email address, and you attach the ACT score with the student ID. And by the way, I know that you want to get scores in quickly, but thousands of students take the ACT and the SAT on Saturdays every month, thousands. And I am the person who manages the concordance score email. So when you submit a request, I'm the person who manually inputs it. The way it's done is we get a file probably now once a week from ACT and SAT, and it comes in dribs and drabs. We might get a file that has 100 student records, or we might get a file that has 6,000 student records. And those files are cleaned up and they're matched. They go to data management. And remember, there's no FLE ID on ACT or SAT. So they have a program that does it, but they have to match every ACT, SAT score with a student in our database. Once it's matched, it goes over to ITS and it's loaded into SPI. 99% of our records are done that way. There's just no way for me to hand enter 10,000 scores a month. Some get missed, you know, students miss bubble, or they have a hyphen in their name, or for whatever reason, ACT or SAT just hasn't sent their score yet, and that's when you request a manual entry. As we get closer to graduation, I'm doing them on demand. I'm getting them in as quick as possible. But if the student just took an ACT or an SAT, let's say in the past month, just hold off. That score will be uploaded to SPI. If you don't see it within about 4 weeks, then send it to me. As we get closer to graduation, as we get into March and April, you can start sending them to me on demand, and I will enter them as soon as I get them, because I know you need to clear your seniors. I know that. Okay, the question is, if we only test seniors during March 8th, can we test juniors during March 29th? Unfortunately, with ACT, you are only allowed one administration per the entire spring semester. So of those 4 dates, you can only participate in one of them. ACT does not allow multiple administrations per semester. I'm sorry, that's their policy. I understand the need to test juniors. For right now, the seniors are going to be paid for. Let me see what I can find out about adding juniors to that for March 8th. For the SAT March 2nd, do you know when we will get the information on the outside students that may need to test? Thank you for bringing that up, Monica. We will have special program students. For those of you that don't know what that question means, so we have Florida Virtual and Miami-Dade Online students. Those students are allowed per statute to test at their home school for any kind of statewide administration, and March 2nd will be a statewide administration. So you will be getting juniors from Florida Virtual. You won't be getting seniors, but you'll be getting juniors from Florida Virtual and Miami-Dade Online. Probably, let's see, the test is March 2nd. Probably within the next 2 weeks, I will get that information from Miami-Dade Online and from Florida Virtual, and I will forward that list to you. It shouldn't be that much. It's just 11th graders, but you'll need to accommodate them in your school on March 2nd. I will send you the list of students and, of course, the code that the students or you will need to bubble in for their high school code. Thank you for asking that, Monica. How can students and counselors access their ACT non-college reportable scores? The student accounts were not showing scores. As of yesterday, ACT NCR were only showing in Aspen. Non-college reportable scores are in SPI. You can also see them or look at them through ACT Success, that reporting website. I will show you in a minute, but they are there. And you're correct, non-college reportable scores are not posted in the MyACT, so the student can't see them, but the school can. And everyone from the October administration, we loaded those files as soon as we received the score. I think we got it loaded in about 4 days, which is pretty fast. So all of those scores are in SPI. It's just in the, you have to look under Non-College Reportable tab in SPI, because there's 2 tabs for ACT and there's 2 tabs for SAT. It'll say College Board SAT, and then it'll say Non-College Reportable SAT. And then again for ACT, same thing, there's College Reportable and Non-College Reportable, so you need to make sure you look at that. But I will go over the reporting site for ACT and SAT and show you guys. Is the March 8th ACT administration considered a district test? Will the district order exams, or do I order materials? I think I've answered that several times, but if you're from a traditional Mdcps school, I will be ordering the materials for you. I will conduct the initial order. If you're from a charter school, you can contract with Jessica Dusler from ACT, and you will be submitting the file to order yourself. For clarification, if a student takes the ACT, they cannot take the SAT this school year. No. It's ACT that they cannot take more than once during the spring semester. A student can take an ACT, a student can take an SAT. A student can take multiple SATs over the spring semester. So just because you've taken one doesn't mean you can't take another. And by the way, there's no restriction on the Saturday testing. They can still keep testing on Saturdays. Okay, I have a student ID. Thank you, thank you. Let me show you guys real quick, if you don't mind. Oh, let me get into SPI. Oh, you know what? Let me open it up first because I don't want you guys to see the student information. Let me open up SPI real quick so I can show you where it is. I'm trying to hide the student information. Okay, when you get into SPI, come here. Do you see where it says College Board SAT and College Board SAT non-reportable? That's where you would get the score for the SAT. ACT is right here, both College Reportable and Non-College Reportable. So those scores are all in SPI. If you have a student that has a score missing and it's been more than 4 weeks, send it to me in Concordance Scores. Now this graduation flag screen, I love this screen. Again, go to the drop-down menu. Everything here is in alphabetical order. Go to where it says graduation flags, and this tells you, and let me show you real quick, if you'll indulge me because I'm a nerd. So for reading, these are all the different types of way a student can qualify for the reading graduation requirement, FSA, everything down here. If the student had taken, let's pretend they had taken an SAT and it says N here, it means they took it, but they didn't meet the qualifications, meaning that for their cohort, they didn't meet whatever qualification they needed to. And as you can see, it automatically does the English and reading average for ACT. If we look at math, this student happened to pass for the Algebra 1 EOC, but they also took the ACT non-college reportable, see the NR, that's non-reportable math, and they qualified with that. That means they received a 16 on the ACT, so there's a yes there. They also qualified with the PSAT, which means they received a 430 or above, so they got a yes there. So once you see a Y and a Y, the student is cleared. These same flags are in File Download Manager. So this is a great way to check a student if you just needed to check a couple of students. If you wanted a list, you need to go into File Download Manager, and I'm not going to do the whole thing. Well, let me go into File Download Manager real quick. And I just want to show you. So under Program, choose the one that says Graduation. And of course, choose whatever else you needed to choose. But I just want to show you what this looks like. Let me try to zoom in a little bit. By the way, if your counselors don't know about this, show it to them, because this even has community service hours, whether the student has done their online graduation requirement. But these are all of the flags for every test. Everything that you saw on the SPI screen is here. And what you would do is you would get a Y or an N for each one of these categories. Here's the math graduation requirement flag. That's the same as that heading that we had in the graduation flag in SPY, and it'll either have yes or a blank. And then here is the reading graduation requirement flag, and it'll either have a yes or a blank. And then underneath are all the opportunities or ways students can meet that requirement, and it'll either be blank, have a Y, or an N. A lot of people instead go into this and download the actual assessments, and I don't, because ITS does the hard work for you. If you download the scores, then you have to remember, okay, which cohort is this student in, what's the threshold, what's the parameters, and you have to do all of that. This gives you a straight, they've either met it or they haven't. And if the score hasn't been entered yet and it's blank, then you know, okay, I need to send this to Kathy. Okay, so I hope that clears things up for you. If anyone's confused, again, I'm a nerd, I admit it. I love File Download Manager, and I'm more than happy to assist with anyone who needs some help with it. So please let me know. And thank you for that student ID. Thank you so much. I am only able to see SAT on File Download Manager and SPY. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe after the meeting, call me and I'll see, but hopefully what I've showed you, you should be able to see ACT as well. Okay, for charter schools, can we test juniors on the SAT non-college reporter for April 26th? No. Per College Board policy, the SAT non-college reportable is only for seniors. I had a student take the ACT in December, but I couldn't see the report in SuccessACT.org. Can I send that score to you? I assume that if I couldn't see it, they did something wrong. I know. ACT is a little bit more complicated with the reporting system because the student needs to be linked to your school when they take the test, and that would be, December would have been a Saturday administration, and perhaps the student didn't indicate that you were their home school, and that happens. I am totally okay if the student accesses their My ACT account in your presence and you print out the score and you indicate that in the email. I'm totally okay with accepting that. I just need confirmation that either you or a staff member at the school witnessed the student accessing the score in their My ACT account. Indicate that in the email, send the Mdcps ID, and for some reason the My ACT student score reports don't have last names on them. So, excuse me, that is why I need you guys to please tell me, yes, I access, this student getting into their My ACT portal online, and then this is their score, and I will enter it for you. And again, yeah, if for whatever reason the student is not linked to your school, I can't even see it because they're floating somewhere in the Ethernet somewhere, and we can't get to them. So don't worry, that's a workaround for that. Please clarify, originally the April 26 SAT non-college reportable was going to be funded by an ESSER grant. This is on the district calendar. Now the funding will be provided for ACT. Last year it was funded by the ESSER grant. I will look at the calendar, maybe there's a mistake, but the April 26th SAT was never going to be funded by the ESSER grant. I will look on the calendar and remove it if there's a mistake, but last year it was. The March 2nd SAT is mandatory for 11th graders. Yes, it is. It's just like the PSAT that we give in the fall. It's a census administration per Florida statute, so 11th graders need to take the college reportable SAT on March 2nd. We have also noticed a lot of PSAT scores are missing. If you're missing PSAT scores from this past administration, they're still loading them. If you're missing PSAT scores for seniors, go ahead and send them to me. I will load them for juniors as well. But if they're 10th graders, just give ITS a little bit to get them loaded. If they are loaded and they're still missing, call me first so I can investigate, and I'll look into that for you. Sometimes students do not identify their school on the ACT account and schools do not get the scores. Yes, absolutely right. And be able to superscore. Students need to go in and request scores to be sent to the school. An easier way to do that, Raquel, is I am totally okay, just to save time, that, and this is a question if the student, like we said, the student didn't identify their school, and so I can't see them, you can't see them, but the student can see them in their My ACT account. I am totally okay, again, with the student sitting down in the presence of staff, accessing their My ACT account, pulling it out, and then you guys send me that score, but please make sure you include in the email, it was witnessed by you or whatever staff member, and to verify that that's an actual score. File download is missing ACT non-reportable English and math average. No, it's not, it's there. Let me see, do I still have that? No, I closed it. Here, ACT ER average, that's where you're going to find that. Okay, is SAT March 2nd census administration required for all juniors at charter schools too? Yes, just like the PSAT, all juniors in the entire state of Florida, charter, non-charter, should test. I understand we can only offer one spring exam for ACT. Just want to clarify, if student takes the school day ACT in spring, can they sign up for another ACT on Saturday? Good question. Absolutely. Saturday, there's no restriction. I'm just talking about the school day administrations for this spring. Okay, guys. A lot of good questions. Keep them coming. I'm going to go on with the presentation. Otherwise, we'll never end. So, all right. So for the sequence of administration, let's talk about SAT first. Students have to take all the sections, obviously, for college reportable and non-college reportable to take a score, to receive a score, and the sections must be taken in the order listed in the manual and in the test instructions. They can't take them out of order. And this goes for college reportable and non-college reportable. Remember, for accommodations for SAT non-college reportable, if you have a student who is going to be taking the SAT non-college reportable but needs accommodated testing format, they shouldn't be testing on a non-college reportable day. You should have them test either on a Saturday or a college reportable school day. And then here's a breakdown in the sections for timing. There's 4 sections in SAT. These 2 sections, the reading and writing and language, would be your ELA Concordance score. That's how you get your reading score. Here's the breakdown in minutes. There are 2 math sections. The first section is no calculator, and then the second section for math, there is a College Board approved calculator permitted. Schools may give students calculators on the SAT school day. And then again, here is the breakdown in minutes for 50% extended time. Now for ACT College Reportable, again, there are 4 sections. They're timed. And the sections must be administered in this order. Think of it as alphabetical order. That's what they always remind me about. But there's only one English section, a math section, a reading, and a science. And during the math, they are allowed to use an ACT approved calculator, and of course the school may provide one as well. And again, for college reportable, only students with approved accommodations are allowed extended time. Okay. This is going to generate a lot of buzz. For those of you that remember the October administration, ACT is a little different for non-college reportable. Students only need to take the section they need for concordance. Remember, the only reason a student is taking a non-college reportable is for concordance. That's the only reason. So they're only going to take the section that they need. So what does that mean? A student who only needs ELA, meaning they're missing their ELA graduation test requirement. They need to take English and reading. Remember, they need to take both sections, and they need to take it in that order. They can't take reading first. They need to take English first and then reading. They can skip the math. They can skip the science. For a student who needs only math, remember, they've already got their ELA concordance. They only need math. They can skip all the other sections of the test. They only need to test for math. For students that need both ELA and math concordance. The students can take the English, math, and reading. They must take it in that order, and this is what I need you guys to really listen. I know that we are always thinking we'll get the reading out of the way first and then we'll do the math. And I know a lot of schools during October wanted to do English and reading on one day, or maybe on the first 2 days, and then their math. You can't do that. It has to go by, the student has to take the test in the order of administration. So think of it as alphabetical order. So a student that needs both concordance scores has to take English first, then math, then reading. It doesn't mean the whole school has to be following that order. You might have on day one of testing, one room doing English for students that need their ELA concordance, but another room doing math for students that only need their math concordance. So it's okay to do that, but I want to make sure you understand that the order of administration goes per student. So the student must take the sections, think of it in alphabetical order. I hope that makes sense. You are allowed to test over multiple days. Now, a section needs to be completed. If it started, it needs to be completed that day. So you can't test a section over multiple days, but the test can be administered over multiple days. So you can do English one day, math the next day, reading the next day. You can skip a couple days and come back the next week and do it again with a different set of students. Again, you can test at any time during that window, but it must be in that order. One thing that we found out the hard way this time around is because ACT Non-College Reportable allows you to skip sections, there were some students, not a lot. We had 8,000 students take the test in October, and maybe it was less than 100 that made this mistake. Let's say the student was reading only. They only needed their ELA concordance. So they took English and reading. What happened was they took the English test, which is section 1 on the answer sheet. The next day they came back to take their reading test because they could skip math, but they bubbled in the math section because that's the next section. So your test administrators need to constantly be monitoring the students and making sure that they're working not only in the correct section in the book, but that they're bubbling in the correct section on their answer sheet. Once those answer sheets leave the building and they've been scored, there's nothing we can do. I'm not even sure if we can do anything if the student has already bubbled and the test is over. We'd have to call ACT for that. But this is something that is preventable and can be stopped if your test administrator just takes a moment at the beginning of each section and makes sure the student is bubbling in the correct section. Okay. I know I'm going to get a lot of questions on that because there's a lot you can do. So remember, for SAT, you have to give all sections. They can't skip any, both college reportable and non-college reportable. For ACT, college reportable, you need to give all sections to get a score. For non-college reportable ACT, you can skip sections only. They can only need to take the sections that they need a concordance score for. So basically, for non-college reportable, students are not going to need the science test. All right, let's talk about timing. So you are allowed to give up to triple time for students. It doesn't have to be blanket. It can be at the discretion of the school, and it doesn't have to be blanketed for all of the sections. If you feel that your students need more time for the English and reading sections and you want to do triple time for those, and then maybe only double time for math, you can do that. A lot of schools just went triple time and they did one section a day. And a lot of the feedback that I heard, students really needed more time for the English and the reading section. Look at this. It's not the standard time for reading is just 35 minutes, and students perhaps might need more time for that. You know your students best. It's a school site decision, but that is an option that you can take. Okay. I'm expecting a lot of questions. Let me go back because I lost my place again. Okay, there's a question about uploading ELL accommodations. You're going to go to the SSD online site at College Board, and I will show you that site in a minute. But for SAT ELL, you only need to indicate the student. You don't need to upload documentation. And remember, that would be for the college reportable. You don't need to do it for the non-college reportable. If you're doing ACT college reportable and you want to submit documentation for an ELL, you do need to upload their LEP plan. Can we combine a junior 2020 and senior ACT? I'm not sure what that means. If you want to clarify, Sylvia, I'm sorry. Good morning. Can you super score in ACT? Yes. You can choose the highest score from the English and reading administrations. It doesn't matter whether it's college reportable or non-college reportable. You can mix and match. ITS does that automatically for you. SAT non-college reportable needs to be all in one day. Yes. SAT does not offer multiple day testing. The non-college reportable is April 26th, and that's it. Is the March 2nd SAT mandatory for all 11th graders? Yes, it is. Can pending seniors test together with juniors on March 2nd? Yes. For the seniors, remember, you guys are going to have to pay for them, $55 or $8 if they're on free and reduced lunch, but yes. Seniors can test on March 2nd. ACT non-college reportable, to use time and a half, double time, or triple time, do you need to request it in advance or the school decides? School decision. You don't need to clear it with me or ACT, and you do not need to request an accommodation. It's a built-in support. So it's a school site decision. Just make sure you can justify it if you're giving different student groups different time accommodations or timing points. Just make sure that you can justify why one group is receiving different than another, or if you just want to make it uniform, do that. Sorry, can you repeat what you said about the ELL accommodations? So I'm not sure specifically for ELL, you need to request accommodations for the college reportable exams, both SAT and ACT. They're allowed a dictionary and extended time and translated directions. For SAT, you will indicate that in SSD online, where you would go and indicate and request for accommodations for any student. And for ACT, remember this would be for college reportable, you're going to do it on ACT Success, and for ACT you need to submit an LEP plan. Are ELL accommodations valid for college reportable, SAT, or only NCR? You need to request ELL accommodations for a college reportable exam, but yes, ELL students may have accommodations for an SAT or ACT school day. For non-college reportable, there's no need to request accommodations because everybody who is participating in a non-college reportable automatically gets the extended time, and ELL students automatically have use of their dictionaries and translated directions. Just to clarify, if the student has a high score in one of the sections of ACT example English, they only sit for the reading, or do they have to take the ER again together? Remember, it's an average. So I would be worried to gamble with that. I mean, technically they'd only need to sit for one section, but what do you consider a high score for English? So what if they, on the reading, they really bomb and they get a 5? I don't know if that's possible, but what if something like that happens? So I would caution you about doing that. I would make sure they took both sections just to be safe. All right, let's move on. Okay, so let's talk about where you're going to be able to find resources. So let's first look at ACT. This is the landing page for the district, and actually I'm going to go and give you a little tour. This PowerPoint, the links are live, so you just click on that. So this is the ACT district testing page. There's a lot of information here. If you want to schedule events, it's right here. And by the way, they have something called office hours every Monday, where you can join on a webinar, and they go over certain topics about administration. I usually listen in on them. If you'd like to, you can. Obviously, that's up to you, but I always learn something new when I sit in on them. So, and I try to convey that information to you. All right, I don't want to get you motion sickness. I'm going to, so for the district administration for March 8th for traditional schools, I will be handling the student upload. Charter schools, if you contract with ACT, you will need to handle the student upload. This is where you would get the template. If you're having any problems, please call me, email me, whatever, and I can kind of walk you through how to do the upload. Again, traditional schools for March 8th, I will do the uploading for you. And then this is just for a college reportable administration. If you have a student testing on a Saturday, this is how you would submit for accommodations. Here's the Pearson Access user guide, but to be honest, there's not a whole lot you really need to do in Pearson Access that I haven't provided you with a step-by-step, to be honest with you. So, okay, this is step 5. This one is the most important part because these are where all of your manuals are. So for the non-college reportable day, here's a link to your manual. For the test coordinator, link to your manual. So you get those here. Here's the list of authorized dictionaries, the calculator policy, a link to the prohibited device poster. There's even a little video on how to train room supervisors. I watched it, and you can use it to kind of get ideas when you're training your room. By the way, room supervisors is the ACT name for test administrators. So you might hear me say test administrators. ACT says room supervisors. I forget what SAT says, but it's along those lines. And by the way, you're the test coordinator for ACT and SAT. That's how you're referred to by SAT and ACT. Anyway, so this is probably the section that you will use the most, and these are all of your manuals. You will receive them with your shipment. You'll get, I think, a manual per every 10 to 20 students, something like that. So you're going to get a lot of manuals, but those are not going to come till like February. So if you wanted to quickly send your teachers a link to this, you could, and then obviously for yourself, you can download these. And then 6 has to do with how to pack up. These are all instructions for packing up your materials for ACT. And then the reporting. This is a link to the reporting site, which I'll go over in a minute, where the scores are housed. And then, of course, when we get them, we post them in SPI. Alrighty. Okay, this is the reporting site for ACT. And I'm going to go there right now. If you don't have access, you can request access. So I'm going to sign in. If you don't have access, you're going to click on this, create an account, enter your information, and hold on. There will be a point where you're going to need to choose your employer. Choose your school, not Miami-Dade County, because you want access to your school, not district access. Oops. I lost my page. Hold on a second. Let's go back to Success ACT. Most of you have access. By the way, your counselors should have access to this too. And this is basically the reporting site where you can see your student scores. So scores can be accessed here. Let me make sure, yes, you can see that. And for the person who asked me, you can't see non-college reportable, what you need to do is this tab right here. Make sure you have it on ACT district contract, or it might say ACT school contract if you contracted with the school, and those are your non-college reportable scores. I don't want to click on them because I don't want to show any student scores, but they're available per PDF, and you can also download them in an Excel. So this is where you would look for student scores. You just type the student's last name, and again with ACT, they're very finicky. The student really needs to have indicated you as their home school in order for you or even me to see their score. Here's a direct link to Pearson Access, which I'll go over in a minute. And then this is where you would go, and it's going to take forever to load because I have all the districts. So if you needed to request accommodations for a college reportable administration, you would click on that. You would also need access to it. So sorry, it was taking too long because every school, I have access to every school and it takes forever to load. Material ordering, I don't even know what that is. I think this is how you get fee waivers, but I'm really not sure. Anyone who knows can let me know. But it's not where you order materials. You order materials by uploading your roster in Pearson Access. Okay, let's go back to the PowerPoint. So if you don't have access, you're going to log into the site I just went, create an account. Now, they're going to ask you what level of access you want. Everyone asks me, whoops, sorry guys, my PowerPoint just died. Hold on. It's starting up again. Sorry guys. Everybody wants to be trusted agent. Trusted agent is reserved for the principal or the principal's designee. You get the same, I'm assuming what you want is the ability to see student scores online, and that would be the online reporting permission, and then TAA, which is the test, accessibility, and accommodation. That's the person who submits requests for supports for accommodation. That might be your counselors, that might be your ESE department chair, that might be you, your ESOL department chair. Though they would need access to that as well, so they can indicate that. So usually people want these two, but everybody wants to be able to view their students, so you would request that access. So once it's requested, make sure you indicate your school, not Miami-Dade County Public Schools, but your school as your employer. The request comes to me and I will approve it. Okay, test activities are managed through Pearson Access Next. Let me go to this real quick. For those of you that administered during the or participated in the October administration, and you've forgotten your password, just hit forget password. Your username will be your Dade Schools email, charter schools. You might have previous accounts, but again, once you do your intent to participate, they will send you a link and set you up with access. And then right here, once we're granted access, or once they're finishing processing our contract, you'll see here that we will have access to early spring, and it'll say ACT 2022, no writing. And so you'll have to make sure you're in the correct administration. Here's the fall that we just completed, but you'd have to make sure you're in the correct administration. And then when you go in, you're going to go to Setup, Students, and that's where you're going to be able to see once I've loaded the student information, your student rosters will be right there. Okay. Sorry, I need to get a move on. I'm running behind. I'm sorry, folks. Oh, okay. Let me talk really quickly about SAT. Whoops. This link takes you, I find for SAT, all the information I need is on the educator downloads page, and there was a link on the PowerPoint. If you scroll down, all of the manuals are here. The list for word-to-word dictionaries, the approved list. There's also translated test directions here. There's a timeline if you wanted to look up, let's say for the March 2nd administration. These are all the ordering deadlines. Remember, January 11th is the deadline to submit requests for accommodation, and so on and so forth. So that is all available there. Do we still have to abide by the 20-to-1 ratio for ACT non-college reportable? Yes, you do. Thank you for that question. I'll be going over that in a minute, but yes, you do. I'll go over ratios for SAT and ACT, guys, in a minute. Alrighty, let's hope this stops acting up. Okay, this is where you would go to request accommodations for SAT, I have a direct link right here on the PowerPoint. Once you download the PowerPoint, you can click on it, and it will guide you through the steps on how to submit requests for accommodations. And then this is the test ordering site. I don't have the link there, but sorry, I thought I had the link on there. You would go to this site. It's the same site you went to for PSAT to order materials for the SAT. And then this is the College Board reporting site. You would go here to access your student score reports for the SAT. Okay, so you're responsible for reviewing the resources provided by ACT and the College Board. In addition, you should download and refer to the Mdcps standards, guidelines, and procedures for test administration and security. These are for district-wide guidelines for administrations of high-stake assessments to ensure security and validity of results. If there's any kind of irregularity, in addition to contacting ACT and SAT, please make sure you contact me as well. So if you're new to testing, make sure that you download this and be familiar. We sort of have an across-the-board district guidelines for any high-stakes tests, and obviously these are high-stake tests. Okay, what are your responsibilities? Ordering materials. For SAT, you need to go on to the College Board website and order materials. For ACT, there is a student roster upload that needs to be done. I will do it for the district-wide administration, and then charter schools, if you contract directly, you'll need to do it for those. You'll need to create student and staff test room assignments for those days. You'll need to designate and train school staff, and here's the ratios for SAT and ACT. So for SAT, it's a 1:34 ratio for both college reportable and non-college reportable. 1:20 if you have an accommodated room. So if you have students, SSD students, the ratio for them is 1:20. For ACT, it is 1:30 for college reportable. For the NCR administration, and I know it's tough, but it is a 1:20 ratio for all NCR and accommodated administrations. So you need to make sure that you're able to receive and secure all test materials. Make sure that the week that your test materials are expected to arrive, that you've let your office know that to be expecting something that's going to be addressed to you, so that they can tell you when it's in the building, because as soon as they're received, they need to go into locked storage. Obviously, you're going to supervise the testing sessions, make sure everything is collected, packed up, return according to the vendor instructions by the due date, complete any test forms that need to be completed, order makeup materials as applicable, and complete any tasks associated with invoicing. So all that in a nutshell. So we've talked about submitting requests for accommodations. One thing I didn't talk about is, for those of you that are school assessment coordinators, you know that the state allows ELL students who have been recently exited, meaning within the past 2 years, they are also allowed to use accommodations. SAT allows that. So SAT allows ELL accommodations for current ELL students, but also for students who have exited within 2 years. ACT does not allow that 2-year extension. So for ACT, for ELL students who receive accommodations, they must currently be in the ELL program, because you have to upload the LEP. And remember, if you are requesting accommodations, someone from the school needs to do that on the College Board SSD site or the TAA site for ACT. Let me stop for a second and see if there's any questions. How are the schools notified if students approved for extended time for school day exams? For ACT, it would be through the TAA portal. For SAT, again, through the SSD portal, you would know. For NCR, you're not notified. They automatically get it. Will exams for extended time be in a different color? Yes. Those would be for the SAT school day, not for ACT. For the SAT school day, they do come in a different color. For ACT, it would only be if you're offering a college reportable, but remember, That would be if anyone is not going to participate in the March 8th administration, you're going to participate in the ACT College Reportable administration in April, then yes, they come in different colors. And then we've gone over this, the ordering of materials for ACT, it's done through a student data upload into Pearson Access Next. On the College Board, you guys have to go into the College Board reporting ordering site and order those materials. For ACT, labels are going to be generated based on the data that was uploaded in the student data upload. There is a window to adjust your material order, and you may adjust your roster in Pearson up to the test day. But remember, to order extra materials, there is a window, and once that window is passed, you can't order additional materials for ACT. ACT will only invoice for students enrolled in Pearson, so you want to make sure at the end of testing, that last day of testing, you unenroll students from Pearson so that we're not or you're not charged for those students, because that is how ACT charges students, not by book, but by the number of students enrolled in Pearson. For SAT, remember there's a pre-ID file and there's going to be labels coming for you for the February 15th administration only. And the only, there aren't going to be any unused test fees for the March 2nd administration. For the April 13th and April 26th, yes, there will be unused test fees. So you want to make sure you assign students to test rooms. Remember, you want to group them by what they're taking and accommodation and time. So for SAT, if you have college reportable students that are doing standard time, they need to be separated from students with accommodation and extended time. For ACT, remember there's an added wrinkle to that. If it's non-college reportable, students need to be taking the same section in the same room. You can't have one student taking reading in one part of the room and another student taking math. They all need to be taking and working on the same section at the same time. So if you have students that are ELA concordant only, and they're taking English and then reading, you're grouping those students together. Students that are just taking math would be grouped together, so on and so forth. So you want to make sure that, and also the timing is the same. Students taking double time should be grouped with students taking triple time. You guys can create your own roster, although ACT and SAT will provide you with a roster. You can clip your school-made roster to their official roster. You need to create seating charts. SAT will provide a timing report and seating chart guide that you'll need to fill out as well, but that only has the book numbers on it. I strongly encourage you to create a seating chart with the student names on it for your records, which you will keep. Also, make sure you have some sort of log for teachers to check out the test materials with you. Anytime test materials change hands, they must be counted and verified and signed by both parties. So if you're coming to me to pick up materials, before I give you the test materials, you're counting, because you're the one receiving them. You're going to verify the number of books that you have, and you're going to sign it and I'm going to sign it so that we both agree. You're allowed to use your own forms, but you must also complete any ACT or SAT required forms that need to be submitted back to ACT or SAT. You want to make sure your rooms are prepared, that they're properly lit, well ventilated. Seats need to be facing the same direction. There needs to be a clock, a working clock displayed. Desks should be at least 3 feet apart. Any instruction materials need to be taken down or covered. Basically the same types of things we tell you for any high stakes testing. And please make sure your teachers are circulating around the room. The biggest thing is making sure students are working on the correct section. They can't jump ahead, they can't go back, and they're bubbling in the correct place on the answer sheet. Okay, so you're going to need to identify staff to train. You can use teachers, obviously, for your test administrator or retired teachers. Proctors can be any staff that is just as an extra set of eyes in the room. They can be clerical, substitute, paraprofessionals. They are not the main test administrator. There needs to be a test administrator in there. When you're training, some things to remember, make sure that teachers know where and when they need to pick up materials on the day of testing. Make sure they understand the process for admitting test takers into the room, the acceptable forms of identification, the process for seating examinees. In other words, once the student is checked in by the teacher, the student just can't sit anywhere they want. There needs to be assigned seating, so the teacher needs to direct the student where to sit. Let the teacher know the time when to stop admitting students into the room and when they're allowed to start passing out materials and reading directions. Everything is in the script for handing things out, and what the teacher should say, the teacher needs to read verbatim from the script. Obviously, test books need to be handed out individually. And then make sure you go over the policy for breaks, for watches, any kind of electronic devices, cell phones, anything like that. Make sure teachers have access to the appropriate manual. Again, stress the importance of reading verbatim. Verbal instructions need to begin no later than 9 a.m. for ACT and SAT. That doesn't mean they need to start the exam at 9 a.m. And of course, they can start prior to that. It just means by 9 a.m., everyone needs to be in their room and teachers passing out materials. If something happens and you go past 9 a.m., you need to call either ACT and SAT and let them know. And then, of course, let me know. Students need to be given the entire amount of time. This was a situation we ran into for ACT. And I know it sounds stupid, but if you have students who are taking non-college reportable and they're given double or triple time and they finish early, even if the whole room finishes early, you cannot stop the test. You must run the clock out. And students cannot leave when they're done. They need to be given the entire time of the allotted time of the section, and then books collected and everyone is released at once. As teachers are admitting students into the room, obviously the test materials need to be in a secured location that students do not have access to in the room. And then the same electronic device policy that we've always had. If you need to make sure that you notify staff what to do in the event that a student accesses an electronic device during testing. They would need to be invalidated. For that stuff, you don't need to call me, but there is an invalidation form that you need to fill out for ACT and SAT. And these are helpful links to give to the student, what to bring on test day, and then the electronic device policy. Those can be shared with your students. Whoops, sorry. As I said earlier, calculators are permitted for Section 2 of ACT and for Section 4 of SAT. It needs to be approved by College Board or ACT, and you guys are allowed to provide calculators for your students. Obviously, it can only be accessed during the appropriate sections of the test. Otherwise, the student is invalidated. Once materials are received, they need to go immediately into locked storage, and they need to be inventoried within 24 hours of receipt. Make sure you open the boxes, count your test books, and then you need to seal the boxes back up again. Any discrepancies, immediately notify ACT or SAT, and then please let me know. But ACT and SAT needs to be your first phone call, and then let me know. So any of the following need to be reported directly to ACT if anything's missing. If you have test books that don't match the serial numbers on your packing list, obviously if the test is lost or stolen, and if you believe anyone has had access to any of the materials, any unauthorized access to the materials. As you're preparing your answer documents for ACT, really, you will get labels. You'll put the label on the answer sheet, and then when you go into Pearson Access Next, for any student who does not have a label, you would need to indicate their ACT student code, and that's when you go into the student roster view. It's that very first column. That's the only thing you need to indicate. Everything else the student fills out on the test morning. SAT is a little more involved. Because this is a college reportable administration, there's going to be a lot of questions about their plans for college. There is a student answer sheet instruction for students that comes with your materials. Allow a good 30 to 45 minutes for filling out of answer sheets the morning of the test. You can have a pre-administration session if you like, where students do this before the test, but I think most schools now just do it the morning of the test. They just set aside that time. And remember, for the March 2nd administration, you will receive labels by February 15th. Oh, and if you are getting special program students, I will let you know. And these are the high school IDs that would need to be indicated on their answer sheet so that the scores are not reported back to your school, but to their school. But I will let you guys know if you have any of those, if you need to expect any of those students. So materials that should be included on the morning of testing, obviously a roster of students assigned to each room. You want to make sure the test books are in sequential order because that's the way the teachers need to pass out the test materials. It needs to be in serpentine fashion. You'll see that in the test manual. Any ACT and SAT required forms, a seating chart, answer sheets. For SAT, the student answer sheet instruction booklets that the students will need to refer to when they're completing their answer document, the appropriate testing manual, and then of course the approved calculators to be used during the correct section of the test. And during test day, you need to make sure that you have adequate time for administrators to pick up their materials, counts are verified, and again, these are things that I spoke about before. Teachers need to make sure that they read the script verbatim, and students can't be admitted into the test room once the instructions begin. Make sure you go over the policy for breaks with your test administrators. Students cannot have access to their belongings during the break, so they can't go and look at their phone. For ACT, they're not supposed to have the watch. It needs to be face down on the desk. So just make sure that the test administrator is vigilant, and obviously the test materials cannot be left unattended during the break. Test administrator needs to stay with the test materials. If there is an irregularity, those forms will be included in your shipment of materials. Some examples are mistiming, cheating, staff misadministration, that would be a mistiming, errors on the test. Make sure you fill out those irregularity forms, and then you can call me or email me and I'll let you know next steps. A lot of times it's just emailing me regarding the incident. Again, contact them immediately in the case of any of these instances happening, power outages, God forbid, evacuations, anything like that. First contact College Board and ACT, and then let me know. Okay, preparing materials for return. Obviously, the first thing is you want to make sure everything is collected back. You want to arrange the test booklets in sequential order. You're going to separate your used answer documents from your unused answer documents. Check to make sure that the identification information is included, and that if a student who's taking the ACT, if they didn't have a label, that their ACT student code was bubbled in block J. Remember that you're going to have to do because you would be the only one with access to their ACT student ID, but that needs to be bubbled in block J. And then of course verify all the test administration forms have been completed. Let me see what time it is. Okay. So you want to avoid any unnecessary test fees for ACT. They don't have an unused test fee. What they do is they will only charge you for the students enrolled in Pearson. So by the end of the test, you'll know which students didn't test, and you want to unenroll those students from Pearson, and I will of course help you with that. For SAT, there will be an unused test fee for the April 13th and the April 26th, but for March 2nd, there is no unused test fee. And you want to make sure if you had any students absent for March 2nd, if you are going to make them up, that you order those materials between the March 2nd and 4th makeup test ordering window, and they will make it up on April 13th. And also for SAT, there is a remittance process. This is important, especially if you have students on free and reduced lunch, because this is where you would indicate which of your students are on free and reduced lunch, and those students would only test for $8. Now, for the March 2nd administration, even though it's paid for by the state, you still want to do that, because indicating that a student is on free and reduced lunch will automatically give them access to fee waivers for SAT tests, and they're allowed to send their score reports for free. I forget up to how many schools, but the student definitely gains many more advantages if you indicate that then that they're on free and reduced lunch. So make sure you do that after the March 2nd administration for any 11th and 12th grader. And then obviously make sure everything's accounted for. You want to pack up your materials, make photocopies of any required forms that you have, and just most important, make sure you have everything accounted for. Make sure you are following the directions in the manuals on how to pack, and that everything is out of the building by the date it needs to be. And reporting of scores. So right here is the email, Concordance Scores at dayschools.net. If there are scores missing in SPY that you need to send to me, send them to that email. And as I've stated before, if it's an ACT score that the student accessed from their own portal, or it's even an SAT score that maybe you don't have access to the SAT reporting site, so the student goes into their portal and gets it. Anytime a student goes into their portal to get a score, I just need confirmation from staff member that it was accessed in your presence. And to be honest, it's so easy to doctor a PDF, and I know most students wouldn't do that, but I have been in receipt of forged documents. So that's why I need you and your counselors to be vigilant. Never trust a score that's just handed to you from a student. Please say, okay, can you sit down at this computer and log into your portal and just send it to me, or we'll print it from the computer. I would appreciate that. I will be more than happy then to, if you include a little line in the email that says that the score was accessed in the presence of staff and their Mdcps ID, I can enter it. Like I said, if the score is, if the administration is more than 4 weeks, go ahead and start sending them. But if it's less than 4 weeks, just give it at least 4 weeks before you start sending them to me. I know that you want to get your seniors cleared, and we'll do that. If they're a junior, hold off. Give it a couple months. The scores will eventually be uploaded, but right now I have to concentrate on seniors. So like I said, any scores older than 4 weeks, go ahead and send them to me at the Concordance Scores at dayschools.net. That goes for SAT, ACT. We don't have PERD anymore, so I'm not getting any of those. What else? If you have any PSAT for seniors that for some reason are not in SPY yet, go ahead and send them to me and I'll enter them. And then make sure you have access to the College Board K-12 site. I don't control access. You're going to need to contact the College Board to get access to that. But for ACT, I control the access to that. So like I said, follow the steps to request access. And that is my contact information as well as the information for ACT. I'm going to turn my attention now back to the chat. Okay, do we have to submit accommodations for the SAT school day if we already have this from previous College Board exams? Guys, I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure. I don't think so. If anyone knows the answer to that, can you please drop it in the chat? Is there a statute of limitation on SAT or ACT accommodations? I think for ACT there is. I'm not sure. For ACT is $35 for free and reduced lunch. ACT does not have any fee reduction for free and reduced lunch. ACT is a straight $35 fee per test, no matter what, and that is for the school day. It's different for Saturday testing. SAT is the only one with the fee, the reduction for the free and reduced lunch. So for SAT, it's $55 or $8 if they're on free and reduced lunch. Can students be seated in alphabetical order for the SAT? Absolutely. You can seat them any way that you want. I'm just saying for the test books to be handed out, they need to be handed out in sequential order. And they ask that you go into a serpentine fashion where you would go down one row and then up the next like this. And that's for SAT and ACT. And the no watch policy for ACT. ACT has a policy where if a student has a watch, and it's in the manual, you'll see it, they have to put it face down on the desk. You can tell them, take your watches off and put it in your personal belongings. Because for the FSA, students aren't allowed to have, are not allowed to be in reach of electronic devices, and you don't know if it's a smartwatch or not, so you can do that. For ACT non-college reportable, can we choose one group to have extended time and another group to have standard time? I don't know why you would do standard time for non-college reportable. There's no point. But you can have one group have time and a half and another group have double time. But the whole point of non-college reportable is to give students extended time. What is the advantage of having labels if the instruction asks students to fill out almost all of the information anyway? I'm sorry, Sebastian, I don't know. You're right. You're right. Just to clarify, when we place the SAT college reportable order, the school will not be charged for unused tests. For the March 2nd administration, that is correct. Only the March 2nd administration, the school will not have an unused test fee. Over the, remember, they won't be charged the unused test fee over 20%, but for the April 13th and the April 26th administration, yes, they will. And Sebastian, I thought a little bit about your question. Maybe the labels is for the reporting back when the scores or when the answer sheet comes back to the vendor, it's easier for them to accurately report the student identification. I'm not sure. I have never ordered SAT before. Do I need to specify every student for accommodations or just large print? For SSD, you do. So for accommodations, you do. For the general book order, no, you don't. Is it valid until, it is valid until 1 year after the graduation for College Board. Oh, thank you, Monica. Okay, so there's your answer about accommodations. It's valid 1 year after graduation for College Board. You could probably check right now if you go into SSD online, see which students have accommodations already there. Okay, Jessica's saying SSD are good for 1 school year. So folks, I would go into SSD online and check. And yes, once you have accommodations, thank you, Raquel, once you have accommodations approved for College Board for SAT, it's good for PSAT, advanced placement, it's good for all of the tests. Do you recommend we order additional SAT for March 2nd for seniors who may want to take it? Or do you recommend opening up an OSP payment and only order for those who paid? I would only order for those who paid. You're not going to get charged an unused test fee, but you have until the 28th to adjust your order. So just tell, if they're serious about it, they will come to you and pay for it, you know, or at least have them sign up for it, you know, and do the OSP payment so that they don't have to pay for it right then and there. They can pay for it later. Do you need to go in and select the individual students when you order or download the SSD roster on test day? Jessica, I'm not sure. Let me copy down your question, Jessica, and give me a second. Or if anyone, I know a lot of you are veterans of SAT, ACT school day. So this question is about SAT, and does the school need to go in and select the individual students when you order or download the SSD roster on test day? If someone can help me out with that question, otherwise. Okay, thank you, Sally Shea. The value of labels are more reliable. Students tend to make errors in bubbling. There you go, Sally. Thank you, Dr. Shea. I am looking at the College Board site, but I cannot find where to order the SAT non-reportable for March 2nd. There is no non-reportable for March 2nd, first of all. It is College Reportable. It is only showing the Saturday tests. Okay. Maybe call me. Or actually call SAT. They can help you with the ordering. I don't have access to the ordering site, but you should be able to see the school day. Make sure that you have the appropriate College Board access and that you are going to the test ordering site for the College Board, because I'm not sure if Saturday administrations would even be on there. So make sure you're going to the correct site. Will the accommodated exams for SAT be a different color? Yes, my understanding is yes. Oh, Sammy, thank you. Seating is supposed to be random on a school day SAT, page 21 of the manual. Thank you, Sammy. So yes, then randomize the order of the students. Remember, you can do the random order yourself and then fill out the seating chart and have the test administrator do it that day. You can do that as well. We are ordering SAT for seniors on March 2nd. Will there be an unused test fee for the seniors test? They're not going to make a distinction. So if you do go over, there won't be an unused test fee. And Raquel says, yes, there is a form to be completed for College Board on test day. Was that for the SSD question, Raquel? I'm not sure. If a student with an IEP will get a waiver for not passing from FSA ELA 10th grade, now a senior, do they have to take the ACT since they will get a waiver? If they're pending a waiver and you know they're going to get a waiver, no, they don't need to test. I don't know that, so unfortunately they're going to be uploaded in the roster. You can either let me know and I can take them out, or you can unenroll them, so you can let me know. I believe SSD is good throughout the high school because we only do accommodations once and they're used through senior year. Okay, so the consensus seems to be once you've submitted it, it's good. For students testing on March 2nd that will test with accommodations, you will need the completed non-standard administration report, NAR. It is found in the ssdcollegeboard.org site. Thank you, Raquel. So, and I apologize, guys. It's not like the FSA where we have access to the platforms and the same access as you do. We don't. And a lot of times I'm flying blind on some of these questions because I've never seen it. And I don't see anything about it in the manual. So I appreciate that. Okay. For charter schools, can juniors test on April 26th? So it doesn't matter charter, non-charter, no juniors can test on April 26th per College Board policy. It's for seniors only. So only seniors can test on, did I say March? On April 26th. Sorry about that. The NAR can only be pulled by the SSD coordinator at the school. You will need to ask for the papers. Thank you, Carmen. Okay. Well, I'm going to stay on and let me unmute you guys if anyone else has questions. So I put that you can unmute yourselves. I think we've gotten through the majority of, and I know you'll think of other questions. I'll think of things that I forgot to tell you. So by the way, please, I'm always accessible by email or by phone. Email is probably the quickest way to catch me because I work out of different offices sometimes. But just let me know whatever help you need. I will keep sending out the friendly reminders of things that you need to be thinking about. So right now, what's on your radar is January 11th. If you have students that require accommodations for the March 2nd SAT, please make sure that those accommodations are submitted by Tuesday. Otherwise, guys, as always, it's a pleasure. If anyone wants to unmute themselves and ask a question, otherwise, I'm more than happy to call me, email me, let me know what you need. Carmen, you have a raised hand. Can you unmute yourself?
Are you showing me on mute?
Huh? I can hear you now.
Okay, perfect. How are you, Kathy? Thank you very much.
Hey, Carmen.
It was very helpful.
Good.
I came in a little bit late, so I just wanted to clarify a few things, if it's okay.
Of course.
For the juniors that we're testing on March 2nd, if they're the SPED students and they don't want to test, do we have to test them? Is it something that all juniors have to test?
Here's the thing. Think back to PSAT. And I know with PSAT, it was a struggle sometimes. Can you force them, like, they're supposed, let's put it this way, they're supposed to test.
Okay.
Do the best you can, but if they're going to be a disruption or whatever, take that into account. But you also don't want to reward them and let them get out of the test for whatever reason. They're supposed to test is what I'll say. It's like however you proceed for the PSAT, it's the same type of situation. Okay.
And just to clarify, we have to place the order by January 28th. We can,
Yes.
order more exams. We won't be charged because we're still debating whether we're going to test our seniors that haven't passed the FSA. So,
okay.
I just want to make sure.
There's no unused test fee.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure. Sure.
I have a question. Hi, I'm Alex.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm the one with the weird questions.
You're what?
I was the one who couldn't find the spy the accounts, but you know what?
Did you find it now? Did you find it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So what you showed, that one, it wasn't obvious, right? I should have known that. But the file download manager, when you explained how to see all the scores, I had no idea. So now I will get to it. I'll just redo my entire file download manager, just increase by massive, like God knows how many columns. But
I know. Well, don't download the scores. Download those flags. Those are way more helpful than the scores.
I have a question. All right. Yeah. And it pertains to sort of like what the previous person asked you about. She asked about the strike kids or the ESC students. But in our case, it might be parents who just have standard students who maybe they're happy with their scores. If they don't want their students retaking it. I mean, I know it's mandatory. So is there a place if they say, oh, who do I contact because I don't want my child to take it because of
No, we don't have anything set up like that. Okay, so it's basically
it's mandatory.
Yeah, it's state, just say it's state statute. Every junior has to take it. Am I saying get into an argument with every parent? No, but and this is the first year we're doing. I remember way back when PSAT was first mandated. I had a lot of parents tell, or no, I should say a lot of students saying, I'm not taking that test. And I just said, yeah, you are. Here you go. And then it just became the norm.
Okay.
So, yeah, Kathy. Hi, Ileana Albuquerque from Ferguson.
Hey, Ileana.
How are you?
Good.
So basically, I do the same thing. I always have a pushback from several students and parents, and I tell them it's a test day at the school because some of them will be like, oh, I don't want to miss my such and such class. I'm like, everyone's testing. It's a test day. And you're gonna be scheduled. So basically, you're covering yourself as well. You'll be scheduled. You'll have a room. You're going to receive a test day, a test location. You're expected to be here. And if they don't show up, there's nothing you can do. Obviously.
There you go. There you go.
But they will be scheduled and they will be on a roster and they will show that they were absent.
Okay. So
thank you, Ileana.
Let them know that this is an opportunity that normally they have to pay for. and you sell it, because really they should be taking it even if they're gonna get a waiver, because they never know and they should be exposed to it. So,
I have another.
but the other thing I wanted to say was, before she said that, I'm actually ordering my test as we're speaking, and it actually gives you what students already have approved accommodations that you can look through the list.
Oh, great.
It's not an alphabetical order, so if you do have access to that SSD coordinator, they can also download the list for you and send it to you PDF, so you can go through it and make sure that all the kids, you know, and let them know that they need to get this done for any student, especially, I know I have certain students that I know for a fact are gonna request it if they don't see it there. So just as an FYI, you know, you're gonna have those parents immediately calling you and it'll be too late because of the deadline. So I would definitely let your SSD coordinator know. Remember, if there's any student that you know for sure the parents are gonna be freaking out if they don't have this, make sure that they have it.
Thanks, Ellie.
I have a question concerning what you just said. It's my first time ordering. I've done PSATs, but I've never done the SAT. So in the PSAT, I mean, I see the accommodations, but I don't order for them, only if it was large prints or like a specific. But for the SAT, I literally have to click on every single student who has accommodations. Because
No.
they said it comes in a different color, and that's why I'm getting a little bit confused.
It does, they have an SSD accommodation already.
Let's say I have
The
200
College Board
students.
knows that. That's
Okay.
the whole thing, that, so it's all linked. So
Okay,
once they've been approved through you know, and they have an SSD number, and it'll tell you exactly the accommodations that they get. There's a sheet, there's a box for each student, just like with the PSAT, that tells you what accommodation each student has.
Here, go ahead, Sammy.
When you place the order though, because when I placed it, you have to select each individual kid who's already approved.
Yeah,
It's a
that's what I was
checklist.
asking.
Right. This one is different. This one's not the same as the other ones. But the other thing too, Alex, I'll talk to you later because I was going through my list. I have 2 kids that are showing up as SSD at Terra, and they're with you. So I want to make sure that they're showing up on your list.
Okay.
So I'll call you later.
Okay.
Kathy, one more question, and I don't know if you said this, but I thought I read it somewhere.
Mhm.
For the students that have, and I just asked my SSD coordinator, I just want to make sure, if they have like large print or those we cannot do for March 2nd, right?
Yes, you can do that for March 2nd. You can't do it for April 26th.
Okay.
And non-college reportable SAT, they will not support alternate testing formats. For college reportable, yes.
Okay, so I'm sorry. So March 2nd, if they have a large print, they cannot test on that day?
No, they can. Hold on. March 2nd.
Yes.
March 2nd is college reportable. So is April 13th.
Okay.
If a student has an alternate testing format, they can. If the student is testing non-college reportable, which is April 26th, SAT does not support alternate testing formats for non-college reportable administrations.
SAT, you said.
SAT.
Okay. Now, the other thing, I knew I had one more question. I'm sorry. If you were talking about the spring and testing, if we decide to test on that window of March 8th through the 18th for ACT for our students that are missing the concurrent,
Right.
We can test those students, right, for ACT.
Wait, say that. March 8th is ACT.
Right, but there's a window. Isn't there a window between, I think it said March 8th through...
March 8th through the 18th, right?
We can test them any day during that window? It has to be the 8th.
No. Any day during that window.
Right. So, and then we can test those days. We're allowed to test our non-concurrent our students, right? Because you guys are talking about something about spring. You can only do one test.
For ACT. For
Okay.
ACT, you're only allowed one administration per the entire spring semester, and that includes those 4 administrations. And we've kind of made the decision for you, and we've kind of said for traditional schools, you're testing the March 8th window.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
And again, if there's a school that doesn't have any seniors that need concordance scores, reach out to me. I don't think we have that, but if you do, let me know, because then you could offer ACT on another college reportable date if you wanted to. Okay, any other questions?
Okay.
No, I'll
Thank you
go.
so much.
Okay, question chart Chart says only ESE for January 11th, ELL for January 28th. Is that correct? Yes. For SAT, the deadline for requesting accommodations for ESE comes sooner than the deadline for requesting accommodations for ELL. It's always like a week and a half. So for January 11th is for your ESE students to request accommodations, and then you have up until January 28th to request accommodations for your ELL students. That's for the March 2nd administration. Yes, Monica, call me whenever you need me. Absolutely. And guys, if you're having a hard time with File Download Manager, I've noticed when talking to school assessment coordinators or counselors, there's a lot of things that they didn't realize are available in File Download Manager that will make your life a lot easier. So please do not hesitate to reach out. We can always, I love Zoom now. We can do a Zoom. I can share my screen and I can show you, because I'm a nerd, so I can show you if you're stuck. All right, guys, I'm going to hang around. Feel free to leave if you need to go. I know we're over time. Please reach out if you need anything. Again, thank you so much. I know that you're hitting the ground running right now, and it's going to be a marathon and a sprint combined into one for this spring semester with all the testing that's going on. So thank you for everything that you do. And please let me know whatever you need.
Hi, I'm sorry. I stepped out, and when I came back, I heard someone talking about waivers, and that was one of my questions. I'm sorry if they've already answered it, but I want to make sure I get the right information. We have a senior that has taken the FSA ELA. She hasn't passed it. She qualifies for a waiver for graduation to meet that requirement. She also did take the SAT once. She did not pass that. Do I have to test her, or can I just assume that her reading requirement for graduation will be met with that waiver?
If the waiver is pending and it's going to be approved and you're absolutely 100% sure, then you don't need to test the student.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
Actually, just a question about, because I'm looking to opening it up for seniors. Any recommendations? Because I'm trying to figure out, oh, hi, Elizabeth. I'm trying to figure out how to differentiate if they have to pay. Not part of that group that with Elizabeth, but if they have to pay, how am I going to do the OSP for fee reduction and non-fee reduction? Like, I haven't figured out what to do with that.
When you say how you're going to do the, first of all,
I'll have to do an OSP to charge them.
Yeah.
Right.
And you want to know which would get fee waivers.
How would I charge? Because if I put both values there, the students might select.
Okay. In file, do you know how to look up free and reduced lunch?
Yeah.
Okay, so then I hear what you're saying. You want to be proactive and perhaps already
what I was thinking, if it's $8, maybe if they're fee reduced, just will cover the cost possibly, because it's not that much.
Well, then the issue is equity. You're covering the cost for some students and not for others, so you got to be careful about that. So honestly, Sammy, I don't know.
Okay. Okay, I was just wondering.
Sammy, you could call me in a bit and we'll discuss.
Okay.
Oh, hey, Elizabeth,
hey,
how are you?
How are you,
hey.
Kathy? Great job.
Elizabeth, do you have recommendation?
No, I'll talk to Sammy and
okay.
I'll help him out. Thanks, Kathy. It's a lot. It's a lot.
It's always a lot.
Great job.
Oh, thanks. So guys, feel free to speak up if you have a question. Otherwise, you're free to go, and thank you for everything. But if anyone has a question, you can unmute yourself and just let me know.
Hi, good morning. Happy New Year.
Hi, how are you?
Good. So to answer Sammy, I usually do 2 different OSP options. So I'll put there SAT free or reduced lunch only, and then that's the $8 option, and then the other option if you not on free or reduced lunch. And then there's this, like I put on OSP stipulation, if you choose the wrong one, you will be obligated.
All right.
So the kid has to pick When they log in, they have
Like,
to
that's
click
what I
which
was
one.
trying, that's what I was trying to avoid, because I feel like they're not going to always be accurate. I'll have to go back and check it anyway, but, and then
Right.
we'd have to deal with, yeah, refunding it, and then, yeah, that's a choice, an option.
That's the only way I've thought of how to do it, especially at a larger school.
Right, right, okay, thank
Tammy.
you.
Thank you.
Sammy, hi, it's Becky from Sunset. I did it last year like that with the 2 different OSPs, and I sent them a link and it worked out fine. I mean, they were able to log in. I sent them a little email saying, you're gonna select this one. And I made like the title very specific. And I have to say, I didn't have any boo-boos in picking the wrong one.
Okay,
But just an option.
yeah.
Thank
Maybe,
you.
maybe it'll be fine, yeah.
Kathy,
Because I'm
question
anticipating.
for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Not a single one of my seniors that passed the PSAT, and I had quite a few, show up on Spy or anywhere. You want me to wait a week and then email you to see?
Let me find out if they're still loading them. I know that
My 10th graders aren't there either.
okay, they're still loading it then. Sometimes it takes them to mid-January to load it. So if you don't mind waiting, I'll try to get an ETA, but how many seniors are we talking about?
I think I had like 10 that passed the math section, maybe a little more.
Okay, let me find out and then I'll let you know. And that goes for everyone on the call. Just let me find out and I'll do a blast to you guys to let me know how close they are to loading them. I know they're working on it, and sometimes it takes a while. Like I said, they have to do the matching, and it takes a while. And we're down staff at ITS.
No,
so.
I figured. I'm also missing 1 or 2 of that December 4th, but they're just at that 4 weeks. So give it another.
Go
week.
ahead and send it to me.
That
Go ahead and
was
send
you?
it to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. There are some people that, the minute the student gets the score report want to send it to me a week later, and I can't, and they send me a list of 50 kids and I can't I can't be entering. You don't want me to manually enter. It just wouldn't be accurate. I make mistakes. So definitely if it's been around the 4-week threshold, go ahead and send it to me. Just make sure you send me the Mdcps ID.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify, Mrs. Kaufman, thank you for your help. What was the verbiage that you used? If you choose the wrong one, you're responsible for?
You will be obligated.
Obligated. Thank you.
There you go. Well, thank you so much for everyone who's jumping in and helping each other. I love that. I remember when I was a test chair, the district was always great. Maria Bruguera and Maru Ganda and Denitra and Felicia and of course Dr. Shea were always fantastic, but there's nothing like getting the information from someone else who's doing your job at another school. And I got so many ideas and learned so much from other test chairs. So I really appreciate it. Okay, folks, I think we're winding down. Please reach out if you need anything at all. Thank you so much for coming today. Let me know whatever you need. Good luck, happy testing, and take care. All right.